With that, few minutes late. John, take it away.
No problem. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Whoops. I just forgot. I gotta turn on the sound. I always forget to do that, just in case. So I'm embarrassed. I have to start out by telling you I'm embarrassed. And the reason I'm embarrassed is that Chris has demonstrated everything that I want to tell you today. And so I've watched the cleanup that's been done on the river over the last few years, and it's impressive, incredibly impressive, and it really does demonstrate what Rotary is about. So I'm going to go through a lot of material here, but I wanted to start by sharing with you my middle name with you. So my middle name is Grinnell, and I was named after my great great uncle and my grandfather. And my great great uncle was George Bird Grinnell, and he was the founder of the Audubon Society, and he was the person that set aside Glacier National Park. And he inspired me, along with a lot of other people, in the Boone and Crockett Club that he founded with Teddy Roosevelt. So it's not surprising that here I am at a younger age. I was very involved with the conservation. And here's a glacier named after Grinnell, 1920 and 2013. What's interesting is that there was a lake there, and you can see the glacier down below. But here's what it looks like more recently. Something's missing. If you look, you can see that there are 4 lakes, 3 of them. The one on the top is Grinnell Glacier, and then Josephine down in the middle, which was named after his mule. And the lowest one is Swiftwater, I think, or something like that. Sweetwater, or something like that. Swiftwater, Swift Current, that's what it is. So why am I focused on this? I'm focused on this because I have grandchildren and I have children who have to live with whatever it is that we leave them with. So please save your questions until the end or put them in the chat. And I'm going to go through a lot of material that I'm sure you're familiar with. And then I want to talk about what Rotary can do, which is demonstrated by what Chris is up to and what other people are doing. So this is the first picture of Earth fully illuminated that any of us ever saw. It's taken from the last Apollo mission, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. It's called the Blue Marble. Reminds us that we're all connected and that our actions have an impact on our planet. But I want to be really clear. Our Blue Marble, our Mother Earth, is compensating perfectly to sustain herself. Every change in our climate and environment happens within her perfect equilibrium. She's been in balance for millions of years, and she'll continue to be in balance for millions to come. So what's the problem? Perhaps we, our human beings, are the ones that are out of balance, and we, not our mother, are at an existential tipping point where we may lose the ability to recover. We're putting 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the atmosphere every single day. That pollution, especially carbon dioxide, is building up and it's trapping heat. And we know that there are sources that are causing this man-made warming. But I think it's important to talk about, we're headed towards 4 degrees Celsius by 2100. From a current 55 degrees Fahrenheit to over 63 degrees. But I want you to think about this. A 5-degree difference from today's temperature, 5 degrees Fahrenheit, on the downside represents an ice age, and on the upside represents overwhelming flooding. Some people talk about climate change as normal. It is not normal. You can see this is a projection of 4 degrees Celsius by 2100. And you can see that the brown, the dark brown, represents dry and desert. Billions without food, water, or shelter, massive migration, global economy in tatters. The 2 countries that will survive will be Russia and Canada. They will be where people want to go. And it's not too late, but we have to be skeptical. I'm skeptical. If you're skeptical about what's going on in the planet, let me give you one image. Here is a satellite image of Siberia above the Arctic Circle yesterday.
Oh, crap. Wow.
100, thank you. That's exactly my impression. 118 degrees Fahrenheit
Wow.
at the Arctic Circle.
Wow.
This is significant, and it's significant for a lot of reasons I'm not going to go into right now, but a lot of reasons that we need to be paying attention. Every kind of climate-related issue is on the rise. We see it all over us and around the world. Severe storms, flooding, fires, drought, glacial melt, tidal rise, ocean acidification, changes in global ocean currents and the jet stream, all and much more are happening now. Did you know 25 people become refugees every minute right now? And it's certain to impact millions to come in the second half of the century. Think about it. California water is now being traded on the CBT as a commodity. We have to make choices now to transition to a sustainable world. But again, we're not moving fast enough as the crisis demands. And most of this has to do with economic considerations. Here's where we stand regarding global energy consumption right now. Oil, coal, gas, and the miscellaneous is hydro and renewables and nuclear. But here's the issue. We're moving in the wrong direction if we want to address the crisis. The investment for the next few years are expected to be 4 times more for fossil fuels than renewables. And the cost of inaction is mounting today and tomorrow. According to the global insurance industry, 2018-19 represented we're in the top 10 most expensive for overall losses, 160 billion in 2018, 140 billion in 2019. And 2020 in the US alone, the cost was 79 billion. The future based on mitigation is not attractive in terms of cost and lives. And here's what is projected for as examples, an increase of 2 degrees Celsius. We're approaching right now. New York, $100 billion. Tokyo, $160 billion. Rio, $150 billion. London, $300 billion. And we're only talking about mitigation. We're not dealing with the impact on population. Look at the most susceptible cities at risk by population. Many in developing countries are in grave danger. If parts of these cities become uninhabitable, where will the people living there go? And how will it impact the cost of adaptation? And who will bear the cost? We're stuck in a feedback loop. Temperatures rise, heat is trapped, temperatures rise. We need to reverse the loop and restore our natural balance. There's a wonderful conversation the Dalai Lama and Greta Thunberg recently had. It's worth looking into the climate energy feedback loops. It's worth looking up the videos and the conversation. It's a real education about what is more than just simply we need to live up to the Paris Accords. Viewed based on carbon footprint, many countries are out of whack. The average US citizen requires 22 acres to offset their carbon footprint. That's 16 tons of greenhouse gases versus the average globally, which is 4 tons. Just to put this in perspective, China is the #1 emitter and the US is second. So here's the issue. Our climate and environment crisis is kind of like an overflowing tub. We have to do more than just turn off the faucet. That's the net zero of the Paris Accord. We need to take 3 actions. 1, mitigation. We aggressively address the crisis as it arises. Adaptation, find ways to live within the shifting environment. But we also need to empty the tub from current unsustainable CO2 levels of 420 parts per million and rising to below 300. That means restoration, bringing down CO2 levels through land and ocean sinks, natural sequestration. We can't count on technology to do it all. We need to change the way we use our land and oceans. There are things that are changing, and it's possible. We have resources and the know-how, solar, wind, nuclear, things we haven't even thought of. There is enough solar energy reaching Earth every hour to fill all the world's needs for a full year. And did you know that globally, wind could supply worldwide electric consumption 40 times over? And did you know that there are many countries where a significant portion of their electrical grid is basically greenhouse gas pollution free? Here are a few of them, and you can see the percentages of their electric grid that is provided greenhouse gas free. And no matter what you think, that's nuclear energy at scale. And it's possible in pocket plants with new safety innovations being supported by people like Bill Gates. It could deliver 4 million times the energy of coal and gas without producing greenhouse gases. It's available and it's happening now and developing. It's something we need to consider. And all the costs for existing renewable technologies are falling rapidly. We're beginning to listen to nature at the same time on how to restore the planet by sequestering carbon through better management of our forests and replenishing our farmlands and coastlines, just like Chris. At the same time, we're inventing and enhancing methods to capture carbon and sequester it in the ground. The question is, are we willing to manage the transition to a sustainable world? There are 3 steps to this transition. 1, I talked about mitigation, adaptation, and restoration. We accept where we are, take action, address the cost. 2, shift subsidies, move more quickly to support renewables, find ways to make investments in fossil fuels less attractive. And 3, establish a renewable environment, concurrently creating a sustainable future. And we are taking action. The Paris Accord is now at full strength, with every nation agreeing to phase down greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by mid-century. That's the good news. The bad news, countries are failing to meet the Paris Accord targets. Keeping below 1.5 Celsius increase is almost impossible at this point. Interestingly, of the first 75 countries reporting, they reported that their target for 2030 was supposed to be 45%. The first 75 countries said they're planning on reaching 0.5% reduction. At the same time, the Biden administration is taking a leadership position by targeting 52% of greenhouse gas reduction by over the 2005 levels by 2030. And climate action isn't about what countries are doing. It's also about states, provinces, cities, universities, corporations, and nonprofits. And they're looking to reduce emissions. 24 states representing well over half the American people are already going farther than required by the Paris Accord. California, as an example, is talking about and taking action on a target for 2030 rather than 2050. Bring it in close, according to Governor Newsom. And multiple US cities have committed to 100% renewable energy. Even though small, there are a few that are already arrived. And some of the world's biggest companies have pledged to reach net zero carbon emissions by mid-century. However, it's not enough. Governments around the world continue to subsidize fossil fuels. Key to shifting our focus on government oversight, starting with subsidies and moving on to some kind of carbon pricing. After-tax subsidies have not stopped growing. The last few years have seen increases, opening new fields for drilling in the US and Russia and building new coal plants in China. Fossil fuels now represent $6 trillion annually in subsidies. On the other hand, renewable subsidies for innovation and development are only about 1.2 trillion worldwide. But the world markets are taking notice. Here's the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's, and it's over the last number of years. It's been going up steadily. And here's the energy sector. Not a good investment. The market returns on clean energy have gone up 60% in the last 4 years. Fossil fuel companies, they've gone down 12% in the same period. And here's the overall value of ExxonMobil. And here's the value of Tesla, just surpassing Exxon. With all the EV competition A lot of companies may soon surpass Exxon. Fossil fuel companies now are coming to understand that they're facing a real crisis. Recently, Shell and Chevron agreed to a 45% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030, and the Exxon board took on several climate activists. But even if we shift subsidies from fossil to renewables, we have to move more quickly. Some kind of tax on carbon is needed. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, can limit carbon emissions through cap and trade, where the government sets limits and companies trade to offset their carbon footprint or to make money from their green status, or a simple tax on carbon emissions based on pollution. California put a price on carbon in 2013 and emissions declined more than 8%. Today, the program manages 85% of the carbon pollution, the most of any policy in the world. But the system has plenty of slack due to low prices and high levels of pollution permits. The average cost per ton of emissions globally is way too low at $2 a ton, according to the IMF, when it should be more than $35 a ton. And yet 70% of the US voters are fully in support of moving to 100% renewable. We must develop the political will to set the rules for the road for emitters through standards and holding those polluters to account. But we can't do this without shifting our thinking. In the world that we live in, perception is reality. That has become very clear with Yale studies that have been done over the last 5 years. Here's a few of the results of the 2020 survey. These are provided at a county level across the country. The dark brown means higher levels of acceptance. Dark blue means lower level of acceptance. So here's climate change is happening, 72%, but you see in the middle of the country, it's lower. It's caused by humans, 55%. Again, notice the counties in the middle of the country. Will harm me personally, average 43%. Harm future generations, 71%. We need to regulate CO2. The average is 75%. Congress needs to do more. The average is 60%. And citizens can do more. The average is 64%. This is interesting and educational, but the real issue for me is that over the last 5 years, these numbers have changed very, very little. Even though it seems like we're understanding more about climate change, it's not getting across to people and their perception. With education, perhaps we can balance the demands of nature, support the humankind, and rethink what is appropriate growth. But how do we overcome our cultural social instinct to focus on acquisition and ownership that is detrimental to our environment and the most vulnerable among us? Is there a sustainable model that we can consider moving forward with? The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals can provide a map for countries and individuals who support new ways of looking at the world. And obviously, I know that you know that we are the only NGO with a seat at the UN. It's worth recognizing that we do have power and position. Clearly, people see the issue and want to take action. They're demonstrating, they're making demands at the ballot box because legislation and regulation are the key to a successful transition. If we're going to see rapid shift in economic support, we have to have sustainable development. Rotary has joined the growing voices seeking to address the impact on our planet. The new area of focus is created, support Rotarians in taking action. And the statement of policy, if you haven't read it, is powerful and comprehensive. It speaks to both preservation of our environment and directly confronting the climate crisis. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says it all. Climate change impacts those at the bottom of the pyramid. As Rotarians, we cannot continue to say service above self without addressing the impact of the climate crisis on our families, our communities, and those in need who we serve every day. The new policy statement speaks to 3 areas and 8 targets. The first area is protecting the environment. The second is taking action amidst the climate crisis. And the third area is addressing environmental inequality. Take time to read the entire policy statement. It's worth it. It's powerful and it's comprehensive. I'm going to leave a link to it. I'll send that out after we finish today, along with a bunch of other links. So a lot of people, including many Rotarians, are concerned that addressing the climate crisis is political. Holger Knack, our president, said it's definitely not political. It is a fact, which is why it's important. If things are obviously wrong, we have to say so. You are powerful. You've demonstrated that over and over again in the work that you do in your community. Rotary is powerful. We're recognized, we're trusted because we can get things done. It's exactly what you said about Chris and about your club. I know you're already active, but there are 3 specific ways you can help to make even more of a difference. First, join the growing number of clubs and individuals who have made a commitment to address the climate crisis. It's a statement. Our partner, Global Climate Pledge, has more than 210 Rotary clubs that are making the commitment through their website, and 275,000 individual pledges. Again, I'm going to share the links with you so that you have them. Second, use your position in the community to advocate. Review your community's clean energy plan based on outcomes. And if there isn't one, help build it. But I know you have one. I've talked to, I can't remember who it is on your city council, so I know it's there. But how is it doing? And are the outcomes being achieved? And then take action to support the county plan and then go beyond. And third, take on climate projects with community partners. Build across the community to take more action and have more projects. Rotary has the ability to create these partnerships in almost any situation. Recognize your club's unique position and consider how to use it. And there are Rotary's resources to help through SRAG, the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. We're expanding membership while continuing to focus on key Rotary-wide projects. And RCAT is helping build club infrastructure to focus on community projects and share successes with other clubs. Working together, we support our environment and confront the crisis. Use our online resources for information, action, and project success stories. Have different speakers inform you and your club on key issues. Upload your projects to our site so other people can learn from your work. It's easy and can be done on your smartphone. And be sure to join us the 3rd Thursday of every month for our Global Speakers Forum. And consider working with the data and ideas, if you're not already, or our Rotary partner, Project Drawdown. It's a coalition of scientists, researchers, and advisors from all over the world with the goal of providing 100 solutions to reverse global warming. Buy the Drawdown book, download the free Drawdown review, and watch the videos that they produce that are excellent. Here's a couple of the projects that you might consider. But let me give you an example of a potential project, EV Ride Drive. It's important because electric CO2 emissions are almost nil versus gas, hybrid, and hybrid plug-ins. So how does it work? You partner with another Rotary club or other Rotary clubs and district Rotaractors. You arrange EV sales organizations like Tesla, Ford, GM, or VW. You might depend on EV owners. They love to tell their stories. You get support from local government based on the Clean Energy Plan and include other environmental groups. It's fun and it's not hard to put together. And a recent California study of 4,000 visitors to Ride Drive events shows that an amazing 98% of the people say they're planning on or buying an electric vehicle. And there are plenty of other resources. Take the time to do the short and long form carbon footprint assessment. The best short form is the gold standard. Our partner Bright Action does an excellent and detailed assessment. If you go to Bright Action and input your zip code, you'll access local assessment with potentially 50 to 75 suggested actions that you can take. You can also do something with your club and have a group project. The last area is the there it is. The Global Footprint Network is being supported by SRAG, and we're looking to propose that all Rotarians get an opportunity to fill it out and see where they stand on a global basis. Businesses and organizations can seek green certification based on UN Sustainable Development Goals, or through a myriad of green certification programs in every country and every US state. There's no one that's the best. You have to look and see what's best in your community. All of these resources I mentioned, I'll be sending to you after the get together today. And so consider being responsible when you travel, whether for business or pleasure. I'm not going to go into these services, but know that thoughtful travel is important, not just offsetting to make sure that the money you spend actually goes to the destination rather than global travel vendors, so that the people that are serving you actually get the benefit. We can overcome resistance by deciding on our focus, maintain the existing model, move to a new paradigm. There are a number of cultural and political directions worth considering. The United Nations push for sustainable development, actions like the Assisi Manifesto, where climate change is an opportunity to address global inequality. Papal encyclical recently came out, and it has a balanced, thoughtful development approach. And no matter what you think, green legislation is a must in the near term. We're in a midst of a crisis, so we have to jump in. And lastly, but most important, we have a partnership with the Citizens Climate Lobby and another bunch of other groups. Spend time to take action in order to further legislation and regulation. Give your time and energy. And I just mentioned that we have our site at the Rotary International Convention is still up and running if you want to go to our virtual site. And lastly, please sign the pledge, create an action team, become a member of SRAG, and join the network and access regular programs, speakers, your club, and connections. Share your projects, please. Your voice, your choices in the marketplace, your vote, your influence in the community, as if your world depends on it, because your world depends on it. And I apologize for going over, but I have been very upset by the information from yesterday from Siberia, and I had to share that with you.
Yeah, no, that's